How has it been for you looking at course design at this quite this macro level, this kind of high level? How useful has it been to think about lessons in this way?
I think we found it really difficult to. We knew what we wanted to do, but we didn't know how to use get it onto
the piece of paper.
The technologies in a good enough way. Yeah, how to apply it into doing that.
Because we're not familiar with tools, we didn't know.
Tools.
Yeah. Okay, so you became focused on the technologies instead of the learning and teaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, no, not really, but how we could use the tools in context.
In context. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Okay. Anybody else? Any other thoughts about this representation? Yeah.
Yeah, we had a difficulty just attuning our activity to the use of ICT rather than a practical use, which we'd rather have.
Okay.
We'd rather the activity to be musical rather than technology based.
Sure.
So we had difficulty even just identifying an activity which we would just use for ICT.
Sure. Okay.
The classic example is as a sort of a non-musician.
Yeah.
Listening into their conversation was fascinating. Because at the beginning they were saying, oh, we could do this, we could do that, and actually, if we're teaching that, the conclusion was, we actually should be passing the instruments around, and they should be touching the instruments and playing the instruments, and you're thinking, you know, is this cart before the horse? So that's the real problem they had here, which was very interesting.
And what a useful discussion and process to go through, because of course, this particular representation isn't focused on the technologies, it's focused on the learning and teaching. And some of the solutions to these four might be in technologies, or they might be in having physical props or instruments, or whatever it might be, there in the classroom. Good.
We tackled that by talking about our experiences collectively with different specific technologies that are used in the classroom, and then how you could use those.
From there then it came up.
Brilliant. So you came up with a different one. Any other thoughts?
Just in regards to the music too, so we looked at a visualizer, which might be a technical thing, maybe would be good for music. I don't know. Whereas it's essentially like a camera, and it records what you're doing. If you're doing demonstration or playing music or playing an instrument, and you can project it onto a big screen so that all the children can see and they're not having to crowd around you. But also you can do split screens with it, so you can freeze frames and you can record the image as well as the video and then play it again and again.
Is it on a stand or?
Right.
Is it on a stand? I'm picturing like a little
it's
line.
I don't know what does it look like. I've already heard about it.
It's like a webcam.
It's like a webcam.
Okay.
You're watching your finger in on the keys rather than like that she says crowding round.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. Touch the keyboard.
In order to cope with the technological aspect of the lesson, we ended up sort of devising. I think it was interesting. We ended up dividing the class into sort of 3 sections, which I think at the end comes up with quite an interesting lesson. So you've got groups of people learning, and that was our way of coping with different things going on.
Yes. Good. Yes, you take a quite holistic approach to thinking about organising.
That's how we ended up coping with it.
Any other thoughts about this particular representation?
We made a basic assumption at the beginning that if we were to use one of these technologies, thinking about something that we wouldn't necessarily think about otherwise, that we'd have to be operating within an ICT room where each of the children had their own access to a computer, as opposed to being able to use it on a basic one computer in the classroom job. It was there was an underlying assumption on everything else that we based our thoughts on.
Okay, that's not always possible, but yeah.
That was one of the reasons why we divided up into 3 areas, but you don't necessarily have to be in an ICT room. We're thinking maybe we could just give all the students an iPad. That'd be great.
How to reach us up.
most students dread most, which is the hardcore grammar lessons, which you need. You need to conjugate a verb and you need to do it properly if you want to speak the language. And so basically looked at what we'd all done in the past, using various programs on how to make it more interactive, more supportive, more interesting for the students, and how to differentiate. And we also came up with very much pencil and paper technology, how useful it is at the beginning, when we explain, for example, the past tense, to put the auxiliary up on the wall on a piece of paper for those who still need it to refer to it. The same for the subject pronouns. Or if you have the luxury of an overhead projector and an interactive whiteboard, to leave these essentials up for the students to look at and to try and vary the activities and to vary the technology you use every 5 to 7 minutes so that you don't lose those for whom grammar is more of a challenge than for others. So that's how we felt we were trying to make the technology fit our learning level.
I'm getting a real sense of you guys thinking about different new approaches to the way that you might organise your classroom generally to increase the amount of communication and interactivity that's happening in your classrooms. So it's not just about the technology, it's about you thinking about how you might organise your classroom and organise the activities in order to support all of that, which is really interesting. I'm going to so this is like I was saying before, a macro view of the lesson, kind of an overview of the flavour. If you printed this up beautifully, do you think this would be a useful thing to show students, this piece of paper that you've just done? How well do you think it communicates the focus and the purpose of the lesson?
Teachers or students in the lesson?
I'm thinking of students in your lesson.
I think, especially in my top sets, it would make huge sense because, especially there, I find they learn better if the lesson objectives are clearly stated and if they understand where they're meant to be at the end of the lesson, at the end of the week, and at the end of the unit. And so, giving them this, most of them would just look through it and kind of keep me to it. You know, check whether we really covered it all.
And it's a bit different, isn't it, from the old learning outcomes. By the end of the lesson, you will do this, this, this. Anyone else think about using it with students, or or using it with your support team in the classroom as a way of communicating your intent?
With A-level students, ours would give them an idea of, they would focus their thinking. It would, if they know what they've got to get out of their investigation, then they're kind of thinking, do I want to put this forward before, I've got to think of a reason behind everything that I say. It's really what ours, if you looked at this, that's you know, the end part is, I've got to justify everything that I say, because what we're looking for is, why is this? So I'm not sure whether that's good or bad.
Just makes our lives more difficult. Interesting. Okay, right, the right to use is one app.